Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Sorry. This is our new setup. Zoom always changes something, and it always throws me for just the tiniest bit of loop. And I don't know if you could hear that, but you heard that? Okay. Probably nobody that is going to hear this recording is going to hear that, but suddenly you have a woman's voice announcing the recording has started.
Very official. Yeah, it's like the computer on the Star Trek Enterprise, right? Recording in progress. Like, sorry, Hal. That was bizarre. But I have to say, she had a very caring voice.
Ooh, nice.
Nicely done.
What a segue. So we talked about the last time we put out a podcast about 3 things that you just really need to have if you're going to have successful coaching. And the first was the bedrock of almost everything, every relationship, trust, right? And so we went through these 4 elements. Well, one of the 4 elements, Mike, was care. And you had so much interesting stuff to say about care that we broke this into a second episode just all in and of itself. So I think that's appropriate.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, we mentioned care as an element of trust, but it's such a wildly nebulous, strange term.
Right.
You need to care about your people.
Right.
Yeah. I care that they show up and do their job. No. That's caring about yourself.
Right.
So we've talked about it. We talked about this. Our teaser was everybody talks about what they want from their people, but we're talking about what do you want for your people.
Yeah.
And so in order to want something for someone else, you have to care. Yeah. And this becomes the basis for all your coaching, because if I believe all our interactions are based upon you trying to take something from me, it doesn't fill me. It's not reciprocal. And at some point, right, you drain everything I have and you get no more from me.
And this is where there's the sort of the 2 different modes of how coaching shows up in the workplace. Some people hire the independent outside guy. They hire, Mike and Morty. The reason they do that is because they know that we care, right? We're paid to care in some ways, right? We're the guy that's in their corner. That's our job, is to show up and be in their corner. Well, assuming that we have some managers listening to this podcast, and the managers want to coach and the managers want to get better about their coaching, that care is going to be a little different in the coaching, right? Because frankly, you're paid to get performance out of the people to some degree, right? And so those people might see a hidden agenda in what you're trying to do to help them. You're going to have to really demonstrate the care. FYI, here's the super secret. So do we, right? When Mark Ramsey and Mike Marshall go to work, we have some things we do to demonstrate care as well. But you're going to really have to double down and do that if you're the manager, because obviously you want performance out of your people. There are things you want from them, but you've got to demonstrate that you want things for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, you're exactly right. And when you look at, one of the things that we talk about is understanding your team members' why.
Yeah.
We always talk about, what are your people here for? They show up for the check. They're here for the money.
Right.
No, they're not.
Right.
They're here for what the money represents.
Yeah.
And so the money, I may be working hard in sales, and the money to me represents my wife and I getting out of our apartment into a house.
Right.
That's our dream. That's our why. That's why we're working so hard. The money represents, maybe it's a statement of worth that people said I'd never amount to anything, and a certain number in my bank account, affirms that I've made it. Maybe we want to start a family, right? But we don't want to do it while we're broke. And so a certain level of income will be that number that we've set that allow us to confidently and comfortably have our first child.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's if you don't understand the why, it's very difficult to understand why or why not people do things, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
and
does something for a reason.
right. And I would, maybe slow that even further down and say, I'm going to have to spend time with you to get to know your story, because you may not even understand your why at a surface level, where you could say, well, here's what I'm here for. This is what motivates me. Because I ask people that all the time, right? Like, what do you want out of this job? I want a paycheck. Okay, but you could get a paycheck anywhere. So why are you here? What is it that you hope to accomplish here? And it really puts people back on their heels sometimes and makes them really think about what they're doing. So they're not conscious of it either. But, if I spend some time with that person and I get to hear their story, I'm thinking in particular about a young man who has skyrocketed in the company that he's at. He's gone from, the lowest position in the organization to he's being groomed to take over a very profitable department in the course of a few years. He's that good. Well, but you get to know his story and hear about how his mom treated him versus his dad. And man, there is a reason he is showing up at this one workplace. I won't go into his story because it's none of our business. But once I learned that, everything about how he performed made sense. I figured out so many ways to help him unlock, more potential. So, but again, I had to slow down to get to know that story, to get to the why. So I think, honestly, for me, we could almost call it quits on this podcast right now and just say, have you taken time to get to know your people? Do you know their names? Do you know their significant others? Do you know their hobbies? Do you know where they came from, how they got to where they are? Answering those questions, being curious enough to slow down and ask those questions is just absolute power in the coaching relationship. It's not power over the person, it's power with the person to help them accomplish some things.
Oh yeah. If you want loyalty from your team members, you want full engagement, then help them to achieve their why.
Right.
One of the questions I ask is what does money mean to you? And then that, kind of get those conversations you're talking about, you get that deeper thought of, well, what does money mean to me? And then all of a sudden you're having the conversation about the why. And I can't remember who said it, was Zig or Carnegie or somebody, but they said you can have everything in life you want if you help everyone around you get what they want. And it's basically the same concept. Yeah. Which
Love
brings us to my pet peeve.
Yeah. Folks, this is solid gold. This is the reason I wanted to do the podcast.
Oh yeah. So you're talking to a manager and you'll say, all right, so what's your role here? And they say, I'm the babysitter.
Yeah.
They pay me to be the babysitter. I'm babysitting these people. Or they say, I'm running an adult daycare.
Yeah.
And words matter. All right. And mindsets matter. So one of the questions that we have is, okay, so what's the difference between babysitting and parenting? And they'll look at you like you're crazy. And the only reason I know this is because this was drilled into me when I was a young father. You didn't watch your children. No, you're not babysitting your children. You are parenting your children. It's like,
this is for life.
Yeah. And so you look at that, what's the difference between babysitting and parenting? And so you start running down the list, right? Babysitting is temporary. Babysitting is a mercenary act. I'm going to do it as long as you pay me to. And I don't necessarily care about the people in my charge. It's condescending. I see myself as an authority figure, and they're my little minions to rule over until the real parents get back. And when you look at parenting, right, it comes out of love. It comes out of a commitment. I do it not because I'm being paid to do it. I'm doing it because I truly care about these folks, and I want them to have all the best things that they can have in life.
Right.
And so go ahead. You're going to.
Well, it just you're making me. So my wife and I just went on our anniversary date, and we had a young lady come and babysit my 4 children. And I'm just sitting here thinking about the fact that she's a great babysitter. Like we want her back again and again and again. And the reason is, it's just dawning on me, like she actually comes at it from a position of care, like kind of like a parent. She's not a parent. Look, she can step out, and she's not going to be there long term, and we do pay her and so on and so forth. But her mindset is such that, at the end of the evening, when we, check in with her before she leaves, she's sort of giving us a rundown of some significant things that happened. And I think your youngest is really tired because she got kind of weepy on me at the end, and hopefully I think they're all asleep now. And that she's giving a report almost like she cares about them, which I happen to know she very much does. She's a lovely young woman. But that's just it, isn't it? Right. It's the mindset of babysitting that is the problem. This is a mindset issue. Are your charges your temporary hassles that you have to deal with to make your buck, or are these people you're willing to invest in?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well said. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, the difference between babysitting and then the term caregiver.
Yeah.
It's like, which one do you want looking after you?
Right.
Do you want a babysitter or a caregiver? I'll take a caregiver, please.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And especially if they've self-identified as that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they see the job as more than a temporary mercenary type, pay for hire performance position.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And so it brings us to, if your coaching is falling short, and the people that you're coaching aren't listening, this is one of those things where you have to look inward. And Teddy Roosevelt said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
So you can have the greatest advice, right? You've walked in their shoes, you've done what they've done, you've made their mistakes, you can help them avoid them. But unless they know that you care, all that great advice will fall on deaf ears. All of it will be met with suspicion and resistance, and just not sure why we're coming at it from this angle. And so all the good stuff that you have to offer, without the establishment of trust, and within trust, the belief that you care, that I do well, not just at this job, but in life, now we can have conversations and talk about changing performance and changing behaviors and adding things and modifying, our approach to work, because I know it's coming from a place that cares.
Yeah. And a final word I think about that is, they really don't care how much you know. They really don't, until you've taken that time to establish that relationship, and they see that you're investing in them, that you care for them, that you know what they're about, what they want, what their why. So you're going to have to spend time to do that. That takes time. I can hear some of my managers that I work with right now saying, I don't have that kind of time. My final word is this: pay now or pay later. You can either invest in this person on the front end, get to know them, et cetera, and have that grease the wheels all the way through their work day, their work life, their work performance, everything else. Or you can continue to have the battles that you're having, the arguments that you're having, try to figure out a new way to convince them of that thing that you want them to do, that you know will enhance their performance. They don't care. They just don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So take this seriously, the mindset, the slowing down to do it. It's a big deal.
Oh, definitely. We've heard those stories where the guy's working with the guy, the manager's working with the salesman. He's working, nothing's working. And then at some point, somehow the stories get shared.
Yeah.
Right? The team member opens up and the manager's, what's wrong with you? And it was a terrible coaching question, but somehow it got them to open up. And then the manager, he'll come back to you and go, wow, I had no idea so-and-so's story. And we had this great talk, and they'll say it was a breakthrough and it was monumental, and it changed our whole relationship, and he's doing better and I'm less frustrated. And you're like, well, how long have they worked for you? 2 years. So just like you're saying, right? 2 years of beating your head against the wall, wondering why everybody does or doesn't do something for a reason. If you don't know the reason, then they appear insane, right? That's a George Carlin quote, right? The people who dance are considered insane by the people who can't hear the music.
Right.
Right. Watch people dancing, turn the sound off. They look like they're having a seizure.
Yeah.
Right. But you turn the music on and you go, that makes sense. So it's the same thing. They're doing something and they're not doing something. There's very specific reasons why. You just don't know the why, and therefore it appears. I got all choked up. It appears like they're crazy, but they're not.
Well, so that is a perfect anecdote for us to end on, because that caring, when it finally gets demonstrated and both sides get it, and there's that breakthrough moment, now you have begun. And you're going to need the final element of the three things that we feel like you need for successful coaching to follow through on that. So come back next episode to hear about that.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So think about your relationships that you have with your current team members. Do you know their why? Do you know what money ultimately means to them?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, you got a little bit of work to do this week.
Yep.
All right. You know who cares? Our announcer.
Yep.
Yeah, he truly cares. It comes through in all his words. Let's hear what he has to say today.
And that's it. Join us next time when you'll hear Mike say, well, I'm sure he'll say something pithy. Don't miss it. Next time, it doesn't take a genius.
That's good enough.